board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Here. Alderman Cohn. Alderman Narayan. Here. Alderman Vollmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanier. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Here. Alderwoman Keys. Here. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Present. Alderman Aldridge. Present. President Green.
Present.
Alderman Cohn. Alderman Vollmer. Alderwoman Spencer. 12 present, you have quorum.
A quorum being present, we will be led in opening reflection and prayer by Kevin Vanderbrink from Langham Partnership.
Thank you, President Green. Thank you, Alderwoman Velazquez, for your invitation to be here today. I am a 25-year resident of the city of St. Louis. I've served as a pastor in South City near Grand and Gravois, worked with the community ministry near Fairground Park for many years. Like many in the city, I am also a victim of violent crime. 2 years ago, I was coming home after work in February 2021, and as I pulled up in front of my house, 3 young men shot into my car 7 times. One of those bullets remains in my shoulder to this day. Last fall, I received a text from my daughter, a student at Collegiate School of Medicine and Bioscience, saying that there was a shooter in her school. We all know what happened on that tragic day. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I thank you for your service to our city, and I thank you for the opportunity to pray for our city. I'm a Christian pastor, but I believe that whatever our faith, we long for some similar things. We long for justice. We long for peace. We want hope. We want our city to be a safe place where people can raise their children. Christians believe that history will culminate in a renewed earth where everything that is evil will be destroyed and everything that is good will be perfected. There will be justice. We believe with the prophet Isaiah that swords will be turned into plowshares. There will be peace. John gives us a vision in Revelation of a world with no more mourning or tears or pain or trials, no more death. We have reason for hope. So in light of all of that, I want to pray for our city that it would reflect justice, hope, peace. Please join me. Lord, your renewed creation will be one of perfect justice. Give us proximate justice in St. Louis today, we pray. We long for perfect peace. Give us a greater taste of that shalom and reconciliation here in St. Louis, we ask. We desire to live in a world in which all are safe and free and welcome and dearly loved. Make us ambassadors of your hospitality here and now. And Lord, we need mercy, for every one of us has failed to love you and to care for our neighbors. Forgive us and empower us to do better. You are a God who is full of grace and steadfast loving kindness. We pray all of this in the name of your Son, the light of the world. Amen.
We will dispense with the regular order of business to take up the special order of the day. Alderwoman from the 13th, if you would like to join me on the dais, along with members from Moms Demand Action and from the mayor's office. Madam Clerk, could you please read resolution number 34 into the record?
Resolution 34, National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas the City of St. Louis Board of Aldermen recognizes June 2nd, 2023 as the National Gun Violence Awareness Day to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence. Whereas dying from gun violence includes suicide, homicide, mass shooting, legal intervention, and accidental shootings. Nearly 1,000 Americans die every week from gun-related injuries. Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. Whereas firearms injuries surpass motor vehicle accidents as the leading cause of child deaths in 2020. A team of researchers led by Mary Bernardine, MD, examined cases of children that presented at St. Louis Children's Hospital between 2014 and 2017 with firearm injuries. This team found that 70% of these children were shot outdoors by an unknown shooter whose motivation was unknown in 93% of the cases. Whereas since the National Gun Violence Awareness Day on June 3, 2022, more than 582 people in St. Louis have been physically injured by gun violence and 185 people have been killed. And whereas in the same time period, more than 100 St. Louis area children have been physically injured from gun violence and 21 children have been killed. And whereas in January 2023, Hydea Pendleton, a teenager in Chicago who marched in the presidential inauguration parade, was tragically shot and killed just 9 days later, should be celebrating her 26th birthday. And whereas to honor Hydea and other victims of gun violence, as well as the many survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated June 2nd, 2023, the first Friday in June, as the 8th National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange during the first weekend of June to help raise awareness about gun violence and to commemorate all gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to recognize June 2nd as National Gun Violence Awareness Day and encourage all citizens to support their local communities' efforts to prevent gun violence and to honor and value human lives. We further direct the clerk of this board to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of these proceedings and prepare a commemorative copy to the end that it may be presented to our honoree at a time and place deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this second day of June 2023 by the Honorable Megan Green, President of the Board of Aldermen, and the Honorable Pam Boyd, Alderwoman of the 13th Ward.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am very humbled to be up here this morning, but I'm also hurt because we lost another child in our city, and he was only 10 years old. And so I'm asking us as a community to start looking at things in a different way. I'm a person of action, and so I'm tired of people saying this is too bad and enough is enough, and I'm just tired of hearing that, and I want something to happen. So I have connected with St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. I have connected with St. Louis Public Schools, so we can start working together to come up with something to work within our schools to help our kids to be able to understand the seriousness of this issue in regards to guns. I want to thank Moms Demand Action because they have been fighting this battle for a long time. And a lot of them have family members that have been impacted by the gun violence within our country, not only just our city. And so I'm humbly asking people to understand the impact of how it impacts not only the families, but those babies that have been left and they have to be buried. They'll never see their high school graduation. They'll never go to college because their life was cut short. And so I'm thanking everybody that continuously support this effort, but talking time is over, and we need to make things happen. Thank you.
To demonstrate the unity that exists in our government between both of our branches, the executive and legislative branch, in addressing gun violence and in honoring the work of Moms Demand Action, we also have a presentation of a proclamation from the mayor's office.
Good morning. I am Nicole Barton. I'm the Executive Director for the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. And on behalf of our Mayor, Tashara O. Jones, we would like to present this proclamation. Whereas Wear Orange began on June the 2nd, 2015, in honor of Hadia Pendleton, who was shot and killed on a playground shortly before her 18th birthday. And whereas, since then, Wear Orange has expanded to a period of 3 days each year. National Gun Violence Awareness Day and Wear Orange Weekend. And whereas, according to data studies conducted by Everytown for Gun Safety Missouri, has the 8th highest rate of gun violence in the United States. And from 2011 and 2020, the rate of death in Missouri increased 70% compared to 33% nationwide. And whereas, according to Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Policy and Research, the state's 2007 repeal of permit to purchase led to as much as a 47% increase in firearm homicides and 23.5% increase in firearm suicides. And whereas, in the wake of the recent tragedies at Central Visual and Performing Arts Academy in St. Louis, Missouri, and Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee, and elsewhere in the city, state, and this country, horrific gun violence does not have to be the American status quo. And whereas the city of St. Louis renews its commitment to gun violence, to reduce gun violence, pledges to do all it can do to keep firearms out of the wrong hands, and encourages responsible gun ownership to help keep our families and our children and our communities safe. Now, therefore, on behalf of our Mayor, Tashara O. Jones, the Mayor of the City of St. Louis, we do hereby proclaim June 2nd, 2023 as Wear Orange for National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of St. Louis. In witness thereof, set by Tashara O. Jones' hands, and this seal is this proclamation presented today. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 10th.
You, Madam President, members of the board, as a proud mom of 5 and a mom that continues to demand action, I would like to make the motion that we move this resolution 34 in bank.
Second. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we approve resolution number 34 in bank. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any further discussion? Then I would like to turn the microphone over to you.
Good morning. My name is Mary Gross, and I'm a volunteer leader of the Missouri chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. You've already heard a lot of the statistics that I was going to recite, so I won't repeat them, but you also did hear about Hadia Pendleton, who was, in 2013, a young girl who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade. And 1 week later, she was shot and killed on a playground in Chicago. And so that is how Wear Orange came to be. Her classmates decided to honor her with wearing orange, and that just took off. And that's how we got here. So nationwide, we now observe Wear Orange on the first Friday in June to honor victims and survivors and to demand a future free from gun violence. Since we had a school shooting in our own backyard last October at the Center for Visual and Performing Arts, I am certain that most of you know that law enforcement was prohibited from removing the shooter's guns prior to this tragedy. They were prohibited in spite of clear warning signs that the shooter was in crisis and in spite of requests from the shooter's parents to remove his guns. Guns extremists in the Missouri General Assembly continue to block the passage of protective red flag laws. Had a red flag law been in place, his guns may have been sequestered and this tragedy may not have happened. Now we have students, a school, families, and communities forever traumatized. We notice and are very appreciative of the efforts of the mayor and the Board of Alderpersons are taking to reduce gun violence in St. Louis. Mayor Jones is the co-chair for Mayors Against Illegal Guns. She and other regional leaders attended the recent East-West Gateway Regional Crime Summit. Many of us lobby for the passage of protective state gun laws. Families are receiving secure gun storage information. These are just a few among the many multidisciplinary interventions that are being used and that can be used to mitigate gun violence in St. Louis. Let us honor honor victims and survivors of gun violence with those and our actions. On behalf of the Missouri chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, I thank the St. Louis Mayor's Office and the St. Louis Board of Alderpersons for recognizing National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Your actions bring attention to this preventable American tragedy.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 1st.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I feel like the reason so many folks haven't stood up to talk about this yet is that we're all so frustrated and sick of having to talk about it all the time. And in the end of your remarks, and thank you for those remarks, you said thanking us for our words and actions, but really it's us who needs to thank you. Everyone with Moms Demand Action, you've been heroes in our state. You show up when every odd is against you to try to make a difference in the state of Missouri and in our country, and we will not do any of the things that need to happen without the voices that you have brought to this conversation and without your advocacy. So I know your work is hard. I know it is draining. I know sometimes you probably feel like nothing that you do is making a difference, but I promise you it is, and we are behind you. And ask us every day, every week, every moment that you need something, every letter you need written, every time you need people to show up. Never stop asking us. And just, I want to close by just saying thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I would also like to thank Moms Demand Action. The work that you all do is exemplary, not just here at City Hall, but particularly down in Jefferson City, where we have it's just a large amount of effort and work before us to educate them. And, I was pleased to see the passage of the bill that is now on the governor's desk that would make gunfire during holidays illegal. You would think that that's just common sense. What goes up must come down. But it took a lot of effort just to get those types of small baby incremental steps passed down in Jefferson City. As someone who lives and represents an area that sees a lot of gun violence, I really cannot thank you enough for all of your efforts. It means the world to me having to wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning to gunfire on my own block in front of my house. It's painful to live with that. And the work that you guys do does not go unrecognized here in the city of St. Louis, so thank you so much. And Madam President, if it would be okay, I would like to have a moment of silence for all of the victims of gun violence this year.
Yes, if you would please stand and bow your heads for a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I too want to thank the Moms Demand Action and all the folks here today. I want to specifically recognize the collaboration of the President of the Board and the Mayor's Office in recognizing this day, and all of my colleagues here who are joining in support. I want to make sure that I'm on these resolutions as a co-sponsor, and I also want to I would be remiss to not mention that this body is considering at least one tiny action with regards to gun violence. And I welcome and encourage the collaboration and working with all of you all to make sure that we can consider this in a path that would do least harm to our communities and engage the most amount of folks moving forward. So thank you for that. That's all I have.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Well, I would like to take a moment to thank Moms Demand Action for bringing the board, the mayor's office, and members of our community together to observe National Gun Violence Awareness Day. We know that gun-related tragedies are unfortunately a daily occurrence in our city. And they're a daily occurrence because whether they're obtained legally or not, easy access to guns claims innocent lives. They're a daily occurrence in our city because common sense regulations are out of reach in our state. And they're a daily occurrence because historically we focus more on punishment than on prevention. So today, as we honor those who have been affected by gun violence, we must also commit to reducing the prevalence of guns in our city. We need to remember that making our city safe isn't just about getting guns off the streets, it's about keeping them out of people's hands in the first place. And when we provide early interventions, whether through quality public education, diversion programming, or a fair and effective justice system, we widen people's range of opportunities and diminish the need for real or perceived need to own a firearm. And creating an environment that makes gun ownership less attractive reduces gun proliferation in a way that can't be preempted at the state level. St. Louis residents are ready for a smart on crime approach, and both the mayor's office and I and all the members of the Board of Aldermen are ready to meet that expectation. And in partnership with organizations like Moms Demand Action, we know that we can make a difference. So Mary, I really want to thank you for all of your advocacy over the years, and for all of your colleagues' advocacy over the years. Everybody that's up in the gallery, I know how difficult it sometimes is to go to Jefferson City and have folks closing their doors to when they see the moms coming because they don't want to hear what you have to say. But your enduring commitment to keep people safe from gun violence in our community does not go unnoticed, and we greatly appreciate all of the work that you do. So with that, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution calendar.
Members of the board, I move that we adopt our courtesy resolutions calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adopt the courtesy resolution calendar. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And at this time, I would like to invite members of the body up to the dais to get a picture with Moms Demand before we proceed with the rest of the meeting. All right, with that, any introduction of honored guests? Are there any introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Hello. I just want to give a shout out. This morning there was a rally in support of right to counsel and some other things that tenants in our city really need. And I see that some of those organizers and coalition builders and tenants are up there. So they're going to be my special guests today. Thank you all for coming.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 13th.
I'd like to first thank you, Madam President, recognize Dave Sweeney and his beautiful pants. So let's make sure we see Dave Sweeney. And Sheriff Vernon Betts, who's up in our balcony. But if I could, I want to recognize an honored guest within my community. Her name is Miss Anna Jones, and she passed. And she was a fighter in my community. She kept me on point, I put it that way. So she kept me in order. But she was the mom of Mayor Reggie Jones of Dalewood. So I just wanted to recognize that family, and please keep them lifted up in prayer.
Thank you. Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. I have two. First, I would like to have as my honored guest my father in love, Rodney Hubbard Sr. Happy birthday, Daddy. I love you. We love you. And thank you for all you do down in not just Court Square Village, but our city as a whole. And then I would like to have also as my honored guest 18th Ward Committee Man, Pastor John Watson in the galley.
Alderwoman from the 11th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I didn't hear my number. I was waiting for 11. I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam President. My honored guest, and I just would like if we could take a moment of silence. So a lady in our ward who is a dynamo, and if you've lived in the 21st ward for any amount of time, you know Linda Primer. For many years I have said I am in search of a Linda Primer because she is just so energetic and dynamic. She recently lost her daughter unexpectedly, and just, such a shocking event. And every parent's prayer is, Lord, please don't let me ever have to bury a child of mine. And so for that, I would ask for just a moment of silence.
Could please bow our heads for a moment of silence. Alderwoman from the 1st.
Thank you so much. I would like to have Dan Clark with the IAFF as my honored guest.
Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Today I would like to have the Sheriff of the City of St. Louis, who lives in the 14th Ward, Mr. Vernon Betts, as my honored guest, as well as Action St. Louis, who is working in the community and working with the board to pass legislation. I think that's going to be transformative as far as right to counsel. Thank you guys for the work, and glad to have you guys as my honored guest today. Thank you.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I got a little excited. I didn't see this person in the back when I first made my honored guest. I would like to have as my honored guest the man, the myth, the legend, the GOAT, Jason Rosenbaum, back there in the back in the corner. We used to see him over there all the time. Now he's back there in a different place, but I would absolutely like to have him as my honored guest and thank him for all the work he does to help control and spread the narrative down here in the city of St. Louis.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Any further introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, I will recognize you on the approval of the minutes from Thursday, May 25th, 2023.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we approve the minutes from Thursday, May 25th, 2023.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we approve the minutes from Thursday, May 25th, 2023. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the Alderman's mailboxes.
Does anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Does anybody wish to take any bills or resolutions off any of our informal calendars? Does Anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off any of our informal calendars? Seeing none, we can dispense with line item 8. We will also dispense with line items 9, 10, and 11. First reading of board bills.
Board Bill 41, introduced by Alderman Narayan, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service, authorizing and directing the President of the Board of Public Service to enter into a cooperative agreement by and between the Metropolitan Park and Recreational District, doing business as Great Rivers Greenway District. Board Bill 42, introduced by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance authorizing and directing the Director of the Department of Human Services on behalf of the City of St. Louis to accept a grant award from the Missouri Association of Area Agency on Aging in the amount of $95,000 containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 43, introduced by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard and President Green, an ordinance amending the zoning code of the City of St. Louis by permitting the construction and occupancy of accessory dwelling units, also known as ADUs, in all zoning districts that allow residential use. Board Bill 44, introduced by Alderman Aldridge, an ordinance pertaining to the permitting of service parking lots as defined herein and to be codified in Section 87.70.010 and a new Section 8.70.035 of the revised code of the City of St. Louis, establishing additional requirements for the same and containing a severability and an emergency clause. Board Bill 45, introduced by Alderman Aldridge, an ordinance approving a blighting study dated May 23, 2023, for the North Grand Boulevard, Natural Bridge Avenue, North Florissant Avenue, Cass Avenue, and Dr. Martin Luther King Drive area. Board Bill 46, introduced by Alderwoman Schweitzer, an ordinance relating to the appointment of and salaries of certain employees in the Collector of Revenue's office pursuant to Section 82.610 Revised Statutes of Missouri by repealing ordinance number 71508, allocating certain other employees to a grade with rate, including an emergency clause. The provisions of the sections contained in this ordinance shall be effective with the start of the first pay period following approval by the mayor. Board Bill 47, introduced by Alderwoman Spencer and President Green, an ordinance to regulate employer and employee working relationship between the City of St. Louis and all employees under the classified service, including a compensation plan, terms and conditions of employment, benefits, leaves of absence, and authorization for a deferred compensation plan, repealing ordinance number 71512, allocating certain other employees to a grade with rate, and including an emergency clause. The provisions of the section contained in this ordinance shall be effective with the start of the pay period in which the ordinance is approved by the mayor. Board Bill 48, introduced by Alderwoman Keys, an ordinance relating to the appointment of and salaries of certain employees employees in the recorder's office pursuant to Section 82.610 of the revised code of the revised statutes of Missouri by repealing ordinance number 71511, allocating certain other employees to a grade with rate, containing an emergency clause. The provisions of the sections contained in this ordinance shall be effective June 18th, 2023. Board Bill 49, introduced by Alderwoman Schweitzer, an ordinance pertaining to the water rates, finding, determining, and declaring that an increase in certain water rates is necessary for certain purposes, defining certain terms, repealing ordinance number 68694 and a part of ordinance number 63136 with an emergency provision. That's the extent of first reading of board bills.
Reference to committee.
To the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee, Board Bill 41 and 49. To the Health and Human Development Committee, Board Bill 42. To the HUD's Committee, Board Bill 43, 44, and 45. And to Budget and Public Employees, Board Bills 46, 47, and 48. That's the extent of reference to committee.
Second reading and report of standing committees.
The following board bills were reported out of HUD's with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 35, introduced by Alderwoman Schweitzer, an ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission on May 10, 2023, to change the zoning of property as indicated on district map from the A single-family dwelling district to F neighborhood commercial district and G local commercial district and office district to the G local commercial and office district in City Block 6563 containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 36, introduced by Alderwoman Schweitzer, an ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission on May 10, 2023, to amend the boundaries of the Bevo Mill Area Special Use District as indicated on the map shown in Exhibits A and B so as to include the remaining portions of parcel 5653-9 220.001 as described in Section 1 below and in City Block 5653 to amend the boundaries of the Bowtie sub-area of the Blvd SUD to include these same portions of parcel 5653-9-220.001 and contain an emergency clause. That's the extent of second reading report of standing committees.
We will dispense with line item 15. Board bills for perfection. Consent.
Board Bill 10, introduced by Alderman Cohn and Alderwoman Velazquez, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, Board of Public Service, Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the Director of Airports, President of the Board of Public Service, and the Comptroller of the City of St. Louis to enter into and execute on behalf of the city the memorandum of agreement between Southwest Airlines and the City of St. Louis, Missouri, which is attached hereto as Attachment 1 and made a part hereof, containing a severability and an emergency clause. Board Bill 11, introduced by Alderman Cohn, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, Board of Public Service, and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing a Fifth Amendment to Ordinance Number 65163 containing a severability clause. Board Bill 12, introduced by Alderman Cohn, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, the Board of Public Service, and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the Fourth Amendment to Ordinance Number 67357 containing a severability clause. Board Bill 13, introduced by Alderman Cohn, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, the Board of Public Service, and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the First Amendment to Ordinance Number 69870 containing a severability clause. Board Bill 14, introduced by Alderman Cohn, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, the Board of Public Service, and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the First Amendment to Ordinance Number 70140 containing a severability clause. Board Bill 16, introduced by Alderman Cohn, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, the Board of Public Service, the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the First Amendment to Ordinance Number 71005, approved July 25, 2019, which authorized multi-year public work and improvements at St. Louis Lambert International Airport and including a first supplemental appropriation totaling $9,323,256 into Ordinance Number 71005 for the payment of costs for work and services authorized, containing a severability clause. Board Bill 17, introduced by Alderman Cohn, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, the Comptroller, and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, making findings respecting the transfer of a maximum of $13,727,769 of excess monies that the City of St. Louis intends to transfer from the Debt Service Stabilization Fund to the Airport Revenue Fund during fiscal year 2022 to mitigate rates on an annual basis during the term of airport use and lease agreement commencing July 1st, 2016, containing a severability clause. Board Bill 18, introduced by Alderman Cohn, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the Director of Airports and the Comptroller of the City of St. Louis, owner and operator of St. Louis Lambert International Airport, to enter into and execute on behalf of the city the on-airport land lease between United States of America, Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, and the City of St. Louis, Missouri, which is attached hereto as Attachment 1 and made a part hereof containing a severability clause. Board Bill 19, introduced by Alderman Cohn, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the Director of Airports and the Comptroller of the City of St. Louis to enter into and execute on behalf of the city the out-grant license between the United States of America, Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, and the City of St. Louis, Missouri, which is attached hereto as Attachment 1 and made a part hereof containing a severability clause. Board Bill 20, introduced by Alderman Cohn, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the Director of Airports and the Comptroller of the City of St. Louis on behalf of the City of St. Louis to enter into and execute the First Amendment to the Local Concept Food and Beverage Concession Agreement with OHM Concession Group, LLC, containing a severability and an emergency clause. That is the extent of Board Bills for Perfection consent calendar.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the perfection consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adopt the perfection consent calendar. Any discussion? Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just request to be added as a co-sponsor to Board Bills 10 through 20. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adopt the board bills for the perfection consent calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Board bills for perfection.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 16B, report of engrossment.
Board Bill 2, 9, 21, 24, 22, and 5.
Third reading and final passage of board bills consent.
Board Bill 2, 9, 21, 24, 22, and Board Bill 5.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the board bills for consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills consent calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, sorry. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cohn.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Vollmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanier. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Vollmer. 15 aye votes.
By your vote, you have sustained the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Third reading and final passage of board bills.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 18B. Report of the finally passed.
Board Bill 2, 9, 21, 24, 22, and 5.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix her signature hereto to the end that these may become law. First reading resolutions and reference to committees.
Resolution 32, introduced by Alderman Narayan, a resolution approving the submission of an application for federal funding under the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program.
Alderman from the 4th, you are recognized on the first reading resolution number 32.
Thank you, Madam President. I request unanimous consent.
Hearing no objection, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. As many of you may remember, last summer there were some serious flooding that took place. The then 24th Ward, now 4th Ward, was hit extremely hard, particularly in the Ellendale neighborhood. There was a need to buy out some of these houses with FEMA funds, and this resolution simply approves the submission of an application for federal funding under the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. I would love it if you all would support it. Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion to adopt the resolution?
Yes, I move to adopt resolution number 32.
Is there a second? It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we adopt resolution number 32. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 35, introduced by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard and President Green, priorities for the Housing, Urban Development, and Zoning Committee.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the first reading of resolution number 35.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I will move that we place resolution 35 into the HUD committee.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we send resolution number 35 to the HUD's committee. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Let's extend first reading of resolutions in reference to committee.
Second reading of resolutions.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 21, miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 23, announcements.
Monday, June 5th, 2023, Budget and Public Employees will have a committee hearing in the Kennedy Room at 9:30. Tuesday, June 6th, 2023, Budget and Public Employees will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 9:30. HUDs will have a committee hearing in the Kennedy Room at 2:30 p.m. Wednesday, June 7th, 2023, Budget and Public Employees will have a committee hearing in the Kennedy Room at 9:30. Public Infrastructure and Utilities will have a committee hearing in the Kennedy Room at 3:30 p.m. Thursday, June 8th, 2023, Budget and Public Employees will have a committee hearing in the Kennedy Room at 9:30. And Friday, June 9th, 2023, full board meeting in the chambers at 10 a.m. That's the extent of the announcements.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I have plenty of announcements to make, but I'll continue with announcing them later after the meeting. I won't do those, but the one that I do want to make public on the floor today is that the HUD's committee meeting scheduled for 2:30 on Tuesday in the Kennedy Room will include a presentation from SLDC, and this presentation will include the new scoring system, a lot of the reforms that were made from the bill that was passed last year unanimously, Board Bill 64 from Cohn. So I know there's been a lot of misinformation and questions going around about how development processes are going to move differently here in the city of St. Louis, and we want to make sure that we do our due diligence to get the facts out there and control that narrative, that how we are working together, again, in partnership with SLDC. So they will be putting a full presentation on along with a few bills that we will be doing, so it might be a little lengthy, but it'll be worth it to make sure we get that information out. And also, if just publicly, if there's a HUD's bill that hasn't been heard or needs to be heard, I know I've sent the information out several times before, but I think now moving forward, for the record, I wanted to say that if a alderman has a bill that's been assigned to HUDs and they would like to have it heard, please don't think you have to go through me. You can go straight to the clerk's office and have it added to the agenda. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would like to make an announcement that yesterday kicked off the month of Pride Month. Pride Month is celebrated every year during the month of June, and it's a time when people come together and celebrate and honor our LGBTQIA+ community. Pride is not just about celebrating diversity and promoting acceptance and inclusivity. It's about recognizing the struggles and challenges that this community has faced throughout history and acknowledging their right to live and their lives in dignity, respect, and equality. Especially this last year, what we've seen in not just the State House of Missouri, but state houses all across the United States, is our LGBT members have been targeted, been trying to ban drag shows, as well as stop certain health cares that people use to be able to just live on a day-to-day basis. Healthcare is a human right. So as we continue to celebrate Pride, let's also think about the challenges that people are facing for identifying to be who they are, while some people want to continue to judge them and not live their best life. So I hope everyone has a happy Pride Month, and thank you so much, Madam President.
Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 6th.
Just wanted to let people know of a fun event happening in the Shaw neighborhood in the 6th Ward. Shop Shaw is happening from tomorrow, Saturday, from 11 to 4 p.m. There'll be a bus and some businesses, and just want to make sure that we support our local businesses in the neighborhood. And there's also a Sunday special as part of the Shop Shaw piece at Rockwell Beer Company. but just things that are happening in the neighborhood that are good and where people can get together and have community.
Great. Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to piggyback off of what my colleague from the 14th was speaking about earlier, this is Pride Month. It's started yesterday, obviously being the first, but just a little bit of history about Pride Month. So in the United States, it really kicked off in 1969 after the Stonewall riots in New York City. At the time, local police departments were actively invading spaces of LGBT community members underneath masquerading laws, underneath anti-sodomy laws, which a lot of those laws are still on the books in many municipalities. Even though Supreme Court has overturned some of them, there's still a great fear in the community that given some of the cases that have been decided by the court in recent past, that many of those might become in effect again. At Stonewall, the riot that ensued was mainly led by transgender women of color and drag queens. And they were the heartbeat of the movement that we now call Pride and celebrate each year. I would also like to recognize the Alderman from the 14th is getting an award later this month at St. Louis Pride Festival. He's getting I believe it's the Community Advocate Award by St. Louis Pride. So I'd like to give him some props and acknowledgement. For many years, until recently, I was the only openly LGBT elected official in city government. Last session, last Board of Aldermen, we changed that dynamic, and I'm so grateful that he is here serving with us down here this session as well, and look forward to being there when he receives the award at Pride Festival later this year, or later this month, later this year. So, yeah, thanks. The year's just flying by. Yesterday we had the raising of the Pride flag at City Hall. It's a tradition that's continued for many years now. I remember the first year that we had to work to get that done. The administration at the time was very receptive, but we had pushback from the bureaucracy in city government. We had pushback from the Civil Courts building at the time. We had a Pride flag that was flying over there. It's been a tremendous honor, but also a lot of effort just to do simple measures that signify the city's support of our LGBTQIA+ community. And I really would encourage everyone to participate in the Pride Festival later this month. If you're able to, that would be wonderful. Off to another subject, the Alderwoman of the 1st Ward and I are hosting a town hall this weekend on Saturday from 12:30 to 2. We will be at the Carondelet Library, which is 6800 Michigan Avenue. It's in the lovely 1st Ward, so we hope to see many of our constituents, neighbors, friends, and family members there, and we will be taking any and every question that they have before us that afternoon. And then following that, Dutchtown Main Streets and Dutchtown STL is hosting Dutchtown Summer Vibes. It's an annual celebration at this point in time, a music festival that takes place on Merrimack Street, pretty close to the Marquette Park area. If you've been there for our recent film festivals and pool activities, pool opening at Marquette, it's literally 1 block away. But it's a lot of fun. We've got a lot of great musicians lined up for the event tomorrow, and I hope to see everyone down in Dutchtown. Thanks.
Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank everyone that came out to the first public hearing meeting that we had for the Public Budget and Employees Committee at the Golden Record. We had a good turnout. People raised some important issues. And I want to remind folks that this Saturday at 10 a.m. we'll be going to Herbert Hoover at 2901 North Grand in the 14th Ward. Again, we want people to come out to give us your opinions and your feedback about the city budget and other things so that we can keep that in mind as we move forward.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, I just want to make a little correction to what the alderman, and I can't remember what his ward number is now, but it used to be the 25th. The judges did rule that you could not put a flag, the pride flag up. They also ruled that you could not put the Black Caucus flag up. The ruling was that only the court could fly the United States government flag, the Missouri flag, so it was not just against. I want to make sure that that's perfectly clear. It was not against gay pride flag. It was against no other flags. And so I wanted just to get that clear.
Thank you. Any further announcements? Any further announcements? I do want to announce that there is a Personnel Committee meeting that'll be on Thursday, June 8th at 11 a.m. And I also would like to introduce to everyone Janika Hayden. You've probably seen Janika as a practicum student in my office. She has started her first week as a policy associate, now working with our policy director. So please welcome Janika to the Board of Aldermen. Alderwoman from the 1st.
Thank you so much. There are so many events happening in South City this weekend, continuing that trend. On tonight, there is the movie night in Carondelet Park starting at 8 p.m. It is going to be the Goonies Sugar Witch, which is an incredible business in the 1st Ward. We'll be providing ice cream sandwiches. We're selling ice cream sandwiches as well. And then on Sunday at 6 p.m., there is the Everett Dean and Band Elvis Beatles Tribute in Carondelet Park as well. So hope to see you all at some of our great events. Thanks.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. All members were present today.
Yay. Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adjourn until Friday, June 9th, 2023 in the chambers.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adjourn until Friday, June 9th, 2023. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.